I think it's very clear that TNA is going to CW. I am not reporting that. I don't have any inside info on that. I think that this whole invasion thing was designed to lead to a big announcement that TNA is now going to be on the CW network. That makes sense to me. I think that rumor's kind of been out there, and then we're seeing it play out in real time on television. Now, again, until that ink dries, nothing is for sure. Nothing is guaranteed. They could go to a different network, or they could just not go to another network, at all. And then at that point, it kills the whole invasion thing. I think the invasion works better if TNA is on CW. And if you take a look at the TNA stars that were there at NXT, like 95% of them were former WWE and NXT stars. I think the only people that had never worked for the company. Now, people were saying counting Zach Wentz and Eric Young as former NXT stars. Well, I mean, hold on, pump the brakes, motherfucker. They were TNA first. Okay. Those are our guys. You can eat shit. Okay. So those guys are not counted, but it was Moose and Leon Slater and Mance Warner, and that was really it. Everybody else was Io said Heather by Elegance. Okay, yeah, Heather by Elegance, yeah, for sure. So it was just a handful of people that had never really been WWE employees before, WWE contracted wrestlers before. And the final shot, well, the shot that's been going around and the shot that's on my thumbnail is all those stars in the ring looking over the NXT stars, and it's just it's like a time warp. It's like, it's like the previous generation of NXT versus the new generation of NXT. It's like, and I think that's by design. Matt Cardona is not a TNA contracted wrestler. Matt Cardona is a free agent. He has not been under contract with anybody since he left WWE back in, I believe, 2020, 2021 timeframe. But he works TNA shows, so WWE wanted him there, and I think that was strategic because the selling point of TNA on CW, Mike's theory here, and I do theories a lot, so don't think I'm reporting this. It's just my opinion. Mike's theory is, and I try not to talk in the third person, but you guys get the fuck I'm talking about. So my theory is that the selling point for TNA on CW is to get as many familiar stars as possible under the TNA banner, as many stars that are familiar to the NXT fans as possible under that TNA banner to get that good crossover appeal. I understand the logic behind it. However, at some point, TNA's strategy is going to have to evolve into finding new stars that are not former WWE stars because it is so blatant. It is egregious at this point. It's like they're just waiting for WWE stars to get fired so they can pick them up at 15 cents on the dollar, as Rover would say on Twitter. I think they need to do a better job of scouting unnamed, unknown, unsigned talent on the independents, or even trying to like look, you got wrestlers there that work with you that have wrestling schools. Maybe try to recruit some people that have never even had a match before and groom them, much like NXT does. I know it doesn't always work out for them, and you don't have the same kind of resources they have, but I think that you need to start doing stuff like that. Because you set yourself up to be the butt of the joke whenever, you're that selling point is, it looks like two different eras of NXT battling each other. And that's what it comes across as. So nobody sees those people as TNA people. They see them as former WWE people. In fact, most of them are going to be referred to as their TNA name. Ultra the Squirrel makes a good point. TNA ID, NXT evolved TNA style, right? You're going to get to a point where people are going to talk about whatever TNA on CW is as just another episode of WWE television. And if that's what it becomes, I'm not interested in that whatsoever. And so I think that there's some danger there. I would be mindful of that if I were TNA. Okay. All right. So I'm going to get to Stephen Patrick's chat here. So he says, any scoop on why there are no tapings post-Bound for Glory? My hunch is they're going to use a month showing unseen best matches to build up November shows in Orlando which will debut on a new channel. I think there's something to that. So a couple of days ago, I got a DM from somebody that if I told you the name of the person, you'd probably fall out of your chair. But I talked about it yesterday on Patreon. I'm not revealing the name. I'll never do that. They told me that the post Bound for Glory episodes that they were, or the events that were supposed to be in October, were canceled. Now, I never saw anything that was ever on the schedule, so that could just be them using the wrong word. Maybe cancel is not the right word, but said basically telling me that there are no events post Bound for Glory. And I was under the belief for like a day and a half that they were going to go dark from Bound for Glory until November 13th in November, where they would debut live on the CW from Full Sail University in Orlando. Okay. Now, again, Full Sail has not been announced. They just announced Orlando. More on that in a sec. So that was my theory. And then Sean Ross Sapp comes out with a report yesterday that talking about what I had been publicly talking about. I don't know if I broke the story, but I mean, like, look, you just look at the schedule and you know there's no events booked. All right. But I had been I was one of the guys talking about it. I know Miguel Contreras was talking about it and a few others. It's like, hey, look, we're getting close. It's like 3 weeks away to Bound for Glory, and we still have no post tapings, right? And so that's when I got a DM from the person, and then Sean Ross Sapp. I talked to him a little bit, and then he'd come out with a story that he kind of dropped that the PC might be on the table. I can't remember the exact verbiage that he used on Fightful Select, but there's some, I guess there might be some people thinking that the post Bound for Glory shows could be at the PC War NXT tapes. Now, again, remember that the November shows, it just says Orlando. It doesn't say where, right? So, I guess it's conceivable those could be at the PC. My prediction would still be Full Sail University. But like at least those are on the schedule, because you have to set those like you buy tickets to those shows. At NXT, you don't buy tickets for those. They just bust these nerds in from Orlando, and they get to go, right? So I get the feeling, I guess, a very real possibility that that's what's going to happen. Now you got to remember, so if they do a month of television at the PC, that could give them time to get their infrastructure in place to be able to go prime time on CW with a better looking television show. The show that I watched tonight does not look nowhere near as good as what NXT on CW looks like. They need better equipment. They need better infrastructure. They need a better production team, like an in-house production team. And if they go to the PC, they could outsource that to WWE. There are people out there that think that WWE's taken over a lot of the aspects of what TNA does, because TNA's team is just not there, right? They don't have the infrastructure in place to go on a major network, right? The show looks like shit compared to NXT. It just does, right? Alter, Squirrel, my man. Can't wait to see a TNA show in HD for real. Like, how long has it been since they've been in true high definition, right? There's been times they've been true high definition, but like a lot of times it looks like they're in standard definition. Like, take a look at when Jordan Grace is on Impact and then she goes to NXT. She looks like $1 billion because she's in high definition. It's like, you want her to be in high definition. She's shredded, right? Like, you could tell she was jacked on TNA, but it looks like it's way more defined when she's in front of those cameras, right? And that production crew. So look, I'm not saying that, I'm not reporting that WWE's taking over the production, but there is a real possibility that they're going to be heavily involved in the production of TNA once they go. Now, I don't know if that would be a permanent thing. I don't know. I got BQ, actually. He's going to come out with a video. That was my number one question. It's like, hey, I heard, and I did hear this, by the way, that WWE was taking over some stuff from TNA. That's not a report. That's not anything that I could like verify. Nothing like that. So it's just, consider it just a rumor at this point. But I sent that over to BQ. I sent him that information, and so I'm hoping he will be able to talk with his people and see if there's a confirmation there. So let's see. Gerard says, I got it from two people who would know, confirmed to me that there's nothing planned, but there's something up. So he's talking about the post Bound for Glory tapings. Yeah, they got nothing planned. I feel like there is a plan. The plan could be to go dark. We've seen this company go dark before. Remember when they switched to TNA, they went dark for 3 months, and we thought they'd come back with a whole new production crew and all new equipment, and they just come back with new ropes and a new logo. Fucking losers. Goddamn Scott D'Amore. Squirrel says, I mean, they're doing an invasion angle. TNA taking over the PC makes sense, but yeah, where's NXT gonna go? So maybe I made this joke earlier on the Voices of Wrestling Discord, but maybe they can, do a match where if a TNA wins, they get to be roommates. they get to move in. Silver says 3 tapings will be in December 5th. In El Paso, Texas. I get the feeling that's the same place that they ran earlier this year. And you can fill up the PC on a week's notice, even a day's notice, if that's what they're doing. They don't need to announce ahead of time, of course. Yeah. So that's where I think the suspicion comes from, that it's the PC for October. November is like halfway announced. They don't have the venue announced, but I get the feeling that's Full Sail since it is on the schedule. They want people to make plans to go to Orlando. So, and if they're bringing in outsiders, like a lot of outsiders don't really go to NXT. That's more of a local thing. Cause again, there's like a whole thing you have to go through. You have to like take a bus, and like, you can't just like buy a ticket and go park and all that. Like, it's weird. But with Full Sail, you can just buy a ticket and go just drive up and park, and there you go. So I think that you don't even have to sell tickets to the PC. You just tell those nerds to show up and they'll be there. And I say that lovingly, by the way. Let's see. Gerard says, we can't speak of what exactly we were told. So this is from Fightful Select. But see something unconditional or different for TNA. They wouldn't be listed at the Performance Center. TNA at the Performance Center. They wouldn't be listed on ticket sales as of now. On ticket sites as of now. Yeah, that's true. Okay. All right. IO says their old production crew is in AEW. Yeah. So yeah, they gave him like 5 days notice. That's fun. Will TNA ever go back to the OG Impact Zone? I don't think so. I think that costs too much. Full Sail University, not only does it not cost as much, it still looks nice. I thought that the NXT Homecoming looked great. I hope that TNA, if they're going to do their shows from Full Sail going forward, they need that bigger stage that the NXT had. I thought that looked amazing. They looked way better at Full Sail than what TNA looked earlier this year. Again, production matters, right? Like, having a big time production is very important when you're on a big channel. So no, I don't think they're ever going back to the Impact Zone. I mean, I guess you never say never, but I wouldn't expect it. I think Full Sail would be the spot, and possibly, I guess it's on the table. It's on the table now that it would be the Performance Center. So there you go. Okay.